The case we're about to dig into just happened 1 month ago in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I do want to warn you that parts of this case are extremely graphic and may be disturbing to some. Viewer discretion is advised. But first, I'm Vanessa and welcome to Unmasked. Please take a moment to help support my channel by hitting the subscribe, the thumbs up, the notification bell, and setting to all so you'll be notified of all of my upcoming videos. Also, share this video anywhere you can. Now sit back and get comfy as I tell you all about the beautiful, hardworking college co-ed with a heart of gold who went on a date with a monster. At only 19 years old, Sade Robinson was working hard to achieve her goals. On top of working 2 jobs, she was 1 month away from graduating with an associate's degree from Milwaukee Area Technical College. She was majoring in criminal justice and had dreams of going into the Air Force. Sade had a tight-knit family and had a lot of friends. Her coworkers at Pizza Shuttle loved her. They referred to her as the heart of the restaurant. She was known to give leftover pizza to the homeless people who hung around the pizza shop. She was upbeat and bubbly, and she was also a very strong and independent person. On Monday morning, April 1st, as Sade was leaving for school, she told one of the workers at her apartment complex how excited she was about a first date she was going on later that night. Her date was with 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson. Maxwell was a bartender and son of a local millionaire who owned an insurance agency. At 4:15 p.m., Sade texted Maxwell and they made arrangements to meet at the Twisted Fisherman restaurant at 1200 West Canal Street in Milwaukee. Anderson explained that he used to work there and he needed to pick up his W-2, so they might as well just eat dinner there. CCTV footage showed Sade arriving at the Twisted Fisherman at 5:09 p.m. and Maxwell arriving separately at 5:20 p.m. Witnesses at the restaurant saw them talking, eating, and having a couple drinks at the bar. Maxwell spoke to some of his ex-coworkers and told them that he was on a first date. At 6:24 p.m., Maxwell and Sade left together in Sade's car, a 2020 Honda Civic. They then drove to a bar called Duke's on Water in downtown Milwaukee. The pair stayed at Duke's on Water from 7:04 to 9:06 p.m. They were seen talking and having drinks, and at one point Sade snapped one of her friends showing where she was. At 9:06 p.m., Maxwell and Sade were seen leaving Duke's together again in Sade's car, heading back to Maxwell's house on South 39th Street. A neighbor's camera captured both of them walking into Maxwell's house around 9:24 p.m. Around 11:30, a figure can be seen pacing and walking around in the backyard of Maxwell's home, and then at 12:47 a.m., Sade's car is seen pulling away from his house and driving away. Sade was due to work at Pizza Shuttle later the next day, and when she didn't show up for her shift, her coworkers immediately became concerned. It was completely unlike her to not show up and not to call if there was a problem. On April 2nd at 9 p.m., after calling her multiple times with no success, Sade's friend AJ walked into a Milwaukee police station and filed a missing persons report. AJ explained to the police that no one had heard from Sade since she had snapped one of her friends while on a first date at Duke's on Water on the evening of April 1st. The next day, Officer Nora Burlow was dispatched to conduct a welfare check for Sade Robinson. She drove to Sade's apartment building on North Commerce Street and knocked on the door of her third-floor apartment. However, there was no response. Officer Burlow questioned people that worked at the apartment, and the building secretary recalled that she had last spoken to Sade on the morning of April 1st when Sade told her how excited she had been for her date. They pulled the surveillance footage and saw Sade leaving her apartment at 9 a.m. on April 1st, wearing ripped jeans and a black puffy jacket. When Officer Burlow got back to the station, she learned of 2 extremely disturbing events. Around 7:30 a.m. on April 2nd, the Milwaukee Fire Department had responded to a vehicle fire on North 29th Street. The vehicle was a 2020 Honda Civic. The car was extremely damaged from the fire, and in the trunk, investigators found a black puffy coat, ripped jeans, other articles of clothing, and a burnt iPhone. The vehicle was registered to Sade Robinson. Officer Burlow also heard about a horrific incident that had happened on the evening of April 2nd, and with a sickening feeling, realized that it was likely all connected. Around 5:30 p.m., the Milwaukee Sheriff's Office and the Cudahy Police Department responded to a call that a human leg was found by people walking on the beach. The leg appeared to be the right leg of a black female and had been sawed off just below the hip socket. The toes were painted with pink nail polish. When police canvassed the area, they learned that around 3 a.m., a car had rammed into a service gate at the Cudahy Water Department, trying to gain access. When police found broken pieces from the vehicle, they found that they belonged to a Honda Civic. When they pulled the cameras from that area, they saw a figure walking down to the beach around 3 a.m. and then leaving at 4:30 a.m. The severed leg was sent to the Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's office, and the medical examiner estimated that the victim would have been approximately 5 feet tall. When Officer Burlow heard the details of the human remains that were found, she called the Milwaukee Sheriff's Office and informed them of the missing persons report that had just been filed on Sade Robinson. The physical description of Sade being 5 feet tall matched up with the leg that had been discovered. With this new information, investigators got a warrant for Sade Robinson's phone records. Her mother, Sheena Scarborough, gave investigators the information from her Life 360 app. When investigators reviewed Sade's phone records and locations on Life 360, they saw that the last text messages she ever exchanged were with 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson. When they ran his name, they saw that he was no stranger to the law. Maxwell had been arrested numerous times for driving without a license, disorderly conduct, battery, criminal damage to property, and a DV charge rumored to be related to an incident with his own mother after his parents' divorce. As a result of some of his charges, court documents read that he was required to give a DNA sample. Acquaintances of Maxwell Anderson described him as erratic and moody with a hair-trigger temper. It's rumored that he had a dishonorable discharge from the Navy due to ongoing behavioral issues, alcohol, and the use of other substances. Investigators paid a visit to the Twisted Fisherman and discovered that Maxwell and Sade were there on a date on the evening of April 1st. They pulled the cameras from the restaurant and saw the pair leaving together in Sade's car. Now that investigators had proof that Maxwell Anderson was the last person to see Sade alive, they dug into her phone records and saw that from 2 to 4:30 a.m. on April 2nd, her phone was pinging near Warnermart Park in the same location where the human leg was found. Police also learned that there was an eyewitness to the car fire. A witness identified in court documents as LAD was walking westbound on Lisbon Street when she saw a man wearing a large tan backpack exit Sade's vehicle on the driver's side, light a match, and toss it inside. The witness stood there in shock as the car burst into flames and the man with the tan backpack calmly walked away. When investigators pulled cameras from that area, they saw Maxwell Anderson wearing a gray hoodie, dark pants, and a large tan backpack walking in that same area. They then pulled footage from the bus that Maxwell boarded, and in the footage there is a clear shot of his face, and he is wearing the same backpack as the witness described. Armed with all of this new, very damning evidence, on April 4th, police obtained a search warrant for Maxwell's home at 3161 South 39th Street. During the search, investigators found blood on the bedding in one of the bedrooms and blood smeared down the walls leading to the basement. When looking at the drone footage from the news coverage during the search, a grave-sized hole in Maxwell's backyard is clearly visible. To add another chilling layer to this story, a woman who wished to remain anonymous called into a news station and reported that she had gone on a date with Maxwell Anderson back in September of 2023 and that he had tried to get her to go down into his basement, but she declined. She stated that when they were walking around his backyard, she noticed the grave-sized hole in his yard and asked him about it. He told her that he was working on a gardening project. She said that the entire situation made her feel uncomfortable, and she left. Maxwell Anderson was arrested on April 4th. However, he was not officially charged with Sade's murder. Some news outlets reported that a source from law enforcement leaked that they found a sex dungeon in the basement of Maxwell's home. However, there's no mention of this sex dungeon in any of the court documents, so the existence of that is still unclear at this time. Meanwhile, on April 5th, investigators made another terrifying discovery. They decided to canvass the area around 31st and Galena Street where Sade's burned-out vehicle had been located. During their canvass, one of the detectives found a human foot and then what appeared to be a chunk of human flesh. Based on the physical characteristics, they believed the remains belonged to Sade Robinson. The toes were painted the same pink as the nail polish on the human leg that was found 3 days earlier. They also found Sade's bright pink blanket laying next to some of the remains. On Friday, April 12th, 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson was finally charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and arson of property other than a building. His bond was set at $5 million. The Milwaukee Police Department held a press conference about the case.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to give a brief update regarding the severed leg that was found and some of the human remains that have been found throughout Milwaukee County. As you know, on April the 2nd at approximately 5:29 p.m., Milwaukee County 911 dispatch received a call from Cudahy Police Department regarding a severed leg at Warnemont Park. It was near the golf course and the pumping house. And so the leg was amputated from the around the hip down. The leg appeared to be that of an African-American female. Subsequently, a Milwaukee police officer who was aware of our investigation raised the possibility that the leg may be related to a missing person investigation that they were conducting, and that missing person was Sade Robinson. The severed leg has been preliminarily identified as belonging to Ms. Robinson. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Robinson family, friends, and the Milwaukee community who have embraced this family.
Saturday, April 6th, MPD continued the search in the area and located additional human remains on the railroad tracks. Later in the evening on Saturday, April 6th, MPD returned to the area when Ms. Robinson's family located her blanket. At this time, detectives located additional human remains. The identification of the human remains recovered by MPD are still pending. I repeat that. The additional human remains is still being looked at, and the investigation is pending in regards to the identification of that. Please note, we continue to search for additional evidence that has not been located. Anyone with information is asked to contact Milwaukee Police Department at 414-935-7360, or to remain anonymous, contact Crime Stoppers at 414-224-TIPS or P3TIPS.
On April 15th, community members descended on Maxwell's home and decorated it with Sade's favorite color. His porch, yard, and sidewalk were covered in pink memorial items and messages in honor of Sade. Someone removed the items overnight, so the next day community members returned and covered everything in pink again. On April 18th, a resident was walking along the Lake Michigan beach in a remote area not far from the Warnemont Park when they made a gruesome discovery of a human torso and an arm. Investigators believe that those remains also belong to Sade Robinson. Sade's family, friends, and many community members gathered together in the wind and cold on April 19th and held a vigil for Sade. At the end of the vigil, the iconic Hone Bridge was lit up in pink in Sade's honor. In an interesting turn of events, Maxwell retained famed attorney Anthony Cotton, who defended Morgan Geyser in the horrific 2014 Slenderman stabbing. During Maxwell Anderson's April 22nd hearing, after pleading not guilty to the charges, the defense dropped a bombshell. The defense revealed that the preliminary testing of the blood found in Maxwell Anderson's home did not belong to Sade Robinson.
You also understand that by waiving that hearing, you are conceding that the state can establish probable cause, and you will be ordered to stand trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anyone make any promises to get you to give up your hearing?
No, Your Honor.
Search and recovery businesses with sonar boats continue to comb Lake Michigan for the rest of Sade's remains. Her family wants to have all of her remains recovered so that they can give her a proper burial. Questions also remain about whether or not other missing women in the area could be connected to Maxwell Anderson. Although it's not been stated as fact how Maxwell and Sade met, it's rumored that they met at Victor's nightclub while he was bartending. Sade's family is in the process of setting up a nonprofit organization to help support other families of missing Black women in the area. They hope that they can take this unbelievable tragedy that they've endured and find a way to honor her memory while helping others in the community. Maxwell Anderson's next court appearance is May 16th. The Milwaukee police are still asking the community for tips to help them with their ongoing investigation into Sade's brutal murder. So what do you guys think of this case? Based on what we know so far, do you believe that this is Maxwell Anderson's alleged first time, or do you share the opinion of many that investigators are going to find other victims? Please let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe and see you next video.